Are you one of those people that's just never satisfied? I am. I'll admit it. And it's a gift and a curse, right? Because it can motivate you and help you achieve things because you're always pushing, you always want more. But a lot of the time, your strength becomes your weakness and you overstep or you over tinker with things because you're just not satisfied with something that's already working. The Warriors are off to their hottest start in I don't know how long, right? First time they've won 5 straight road games in a long time. And there's just this vibe and this feeling around Dub Nation where it's like, yo, are we back? Are we back? It kind of feels like that early, right? And I would think that most of the fan base is kind of taking the approach right now of, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And in my live stream after the Celtics game, I brought it up. It was one of my first things that came to my mind was like, I'm curious what the front office is thinking. Does this make Joe Lacob in the front office, Mike Dunleavy, say like, okay, yeah, like we can do it this way? Or does it make them even hungrier to acquire a star player? Wendy was doing his thing on ESPN yesterday. Let's listen to what he had to say about this Warriors team and their hot start. Oh, hold on, my bad. That's Wendy kicking bars. My fault, Joe. That's Big Wendy kicking bars. Hold on. This is the video I was looking for.
They may not want to do anything with this roster because it's so good, but the Warriors are the biggest candidate in my mind to make a big trade. They tried to trade for LeBron James last trade deadline. I know it was was one of the most amazing stories that Woj and Ramona reported all last year was that trade talks went down. Okay, that didn't happen. Then they tried to trade for Paul George. Then they tried to trade for Lauri Markkanen. This is a team that's got an itchy trigger finger trying to make a big deal. All of these players' value are increasing as this happens. Now, they may not want to touch what they've got going, but this team has its draft picks going forward. They have all these guys. They've lowered their payroll by $50 million. I mean, that's one of the stories of they're getting more production. Yeah, sorry.
No. I wanted you to finish your thought there, but I'm just curious. Do you know anyone that they have their eye on?
I know that's what the next question is going to be. Let's just wait and see. Okay. I think they don't feel the pressure to do that. I just know that it's something that they've kicked around. So they're a team that not only has so much going for them right now, they have what's needed to potentially make a trade later.
Real quick. No. Okay, so you saw the thumbnail, right? Those are kind of, I think we can all agree Giannis is in his own category. Like he is a superstar still in his prime of his career, right? Joel, Jimmy, Kawhi, that I'm sure it would cost you less, but now you're taking a real gamble. And so hypothetically, we know the Steph Giannis flirtation for years, right? If it continues to go south there, right? It would cost you something along the lines of Andrew Wiggins, Kuminga, DeAnthony Melton, and then you'd have to throw in Guy Santos or some other small salary. You'd imagine Milwaukee would want Looney or Podziemski, hometown dudes, right? But it would cost an arm and a leg, and we all understand that. With this new CBA, you heard Wendy talk about their 50 under the cap, the second apron. There's so many rules, right? But you have to avoid that. But in this new CBA, is this not the way? The depth and this new strength in defense, which we'll get to here in a second. And so I'm as much as, before the CBA came out, right? I mean, we were all just, Giannis, could this happen, right? It would be a no-brainer. I'm not sure it's a no-brainer anymore. I'd be excited. I'm not saying don't do it, right? But back to this strength in defense, in this new defense, this blitzing defense that the Warriors have employed here through 8 games. That's the key. It's been very successful through 8 games. And even you look at the NFL season, how they like to break it into quarters, right? Into 4 games and stuff. And teams jump out to hot starts. And then you're like, what happened? Well, they've lost, like that, right? Well, there's adjustments and there's styles of play. I don't think the Warriors, before this roster was fully constructed in June, July, they were like, hey, this is the defense we want to play. I know Stackhouse probably has a lot to do with this, but it wasn't like, hey, we want to play this defense and we'll just make it work. I think they took a look at their roster and said, we've got 12 dudes. We've got a handful of guys that are plus defenders. I think we can play this style, right? And that's always the best approach is you look at what the personnel you have and you adjust to that rather than trying to fit your personnel into a style that you want to play. And my point is, if you dip into this depth, I don't think they can play this strength and defense style in this blitzing style of defense. It's all good through 8 games, but to do it through 82 games, you're going to need to go 10 deep. You're going to need to go 12 deep to make it sustainable. And you look at the NBA right now, all these stars have gone down. AD's already hurt. What do you know? Tyrese Maxey with the hamstring the other day. That I'm forgetting. There's a ton of guys, a ton of big name players are already chipped up. And I think what we're seeing as well is you can no longer ease your way into the season, especially in the West. The teams that went hard in training camp and preseason, that 6-0 preseason from the Warriors, it's paying dividends now. You know what it reminds me of? When you have these TOC, these Nike holiday tournaments for high school players, college players as well, AAU circuit, just the grassroots level. You know, there's always a break. There's like the Christmas break, and then there's a tournament. And when the teams show up at the tournament, you can tell the teams that practice through the break and then the teams that like were on vacation and they get run off the floor. And I think you're seeing early on right now, the teams that, again, went hard in training camp and the teams that are trying to ease in, and it's costing, injuries happen. But it's the point is, this depth is what it's going to require to keep the Warriors out of the play-in. I know, we have much higher expectations now with this start, but the depth is what it's going to take in the Western Conference. And so the argument against that, or in getting Giannis, is like, hey, well, getting another star along Steph, a bona fide star, that may raise the ceiling come playoff time. But again, at what cost? It's not just a no-brainer. I caution against it. My point is, I'm not as thirsty as I once was to acquire this second star. And it's not just a hot start, it's looking ahead with this CBA, and I think the new style of play that's going to be evolving here in the NBA soon. If you wanted to push back on that, you could say, hey, listen, Mike Dunleavy has proven to be really good thus far, right? And especially finding guys, late in the draft, Lindy Waters, stuff like that. You could say, hey, you sell the house for Giannis, right? And now, because of the CBA, non-star players aren't getting paid like they used to, right? If you're like a fringe star guy, you ain't getting that big bag, at least like you used to. Would that, in turn, push them towards maybe taking discounts to play in a better situation? Because there isn't that bag out there, as well as Dunleavy being able to fill out the roster. It's a possibility. You couldn't be mad if they swung for the fences, and I think everyone it'd be great for business, right? If we traded for Giannis, it would blow up all the clicks and everything. I'm just not so sure that's the answer. As far as the other guys on the thumbnail, if you could get them 10 cents on the dollar, right? If you could get Jimmy super cheap or Joel somehow, it sounds like he needs a change of scenery desperately, right? But you just can't. They make $50 million a year. And so you're going to gut the depth, and there's only one guy that it would kind of make sense for, and that's Giannis. Now, I think what's more realistic and I think would be better is a smaller trade, right? And there's various ones out there. My guy, Stevie Ray Zendejas, he DM'd me this morning. You can check out his Substack. He brings up some interesting, he makes you think about the Warriors with his articles, but he sent me this trade this morning. The Warriors would get Larry Nance Jr. and Walker Kessler. The Jazz would get Lindy Waters, and the Hawks would get DeAnthony Melton. Not sure what the Hawks are doing. The Hawks are disappointing me. All right. And I'm sure there'd be draft capital. He said there'd probably be draft capital. I'm not sure. But it's a move like this. You get 2 big bodies in exchange for 2 guards. I'd hate to lose Lindy, but we have, right? I think that's what we're all circling. The roster still feels a bit unbalanced. We're 2 guard heavy. So if you could find a guy that fits our ethos Larry Nance is a dog, right? If he can stay healthy. And then you get a true 7-footer and Walker Kessler. And so I think it's a move more like that is, I won't say realistic, because Wendy, that's the thing. I know, I'm making jokes about Big Wendy there in the beginning, but remember the Gobert meme? Like Wendy, he has his sources. He's not just like spewing like some of these other guys on ESPN. If he says this, he's not just shooting out of left field, right? And so we'll see. But right now, that's how I feel. I'd like to acquire a big body that fits the system and, the timetable. But I'm a little more wary about cashing in all this depth when you look at stylistically how we're using it, because we are utilizing it. Now, we're in Cleveland tonight, the last undefeated team in the league, and you know who they're led by? Kenny Atkinson. Kenny Atkinson. He's got them sharing the ball. All of a sudden, he's unlocked Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley's starting to look like we thought he would look offensively. He got Donovan to pass the ball, right? So there's some system familiarity. And, I said it in the live stream. I was like, this is going to be probably an emotional letdown for the Warriors. It's the end of a long road trip, right? You come off this big win in Boston, go to cold Cleveland, and then they've got those Twin Towers in there. You've got two guards that are going to be extremely hard to blitz, because when you're dealing with a Darius Garland and a Donovan Mitchell, unlike Tatum, those guys have been getting blitzed in ball screens since they were probably freshmen in high school. You know what I mean? They're just a little more adept at it, even though they're smaller. And then their check down Mobley is a playmaker. He can read the floor and make decisions. And so, underdog, those are my picks for tonight. I've run off like 3 or 4 in a row, if you're paying attention. Evan Mobley, higher than 2.5 assists. And then Andrew Wiggins, higher than 1.5 threes. I think he's due. I just think he's due. I think he's been playing hard, and I think he's due for it. But as always, you can click the link in the description. You can use the code Alchemy and get up to $1,000 bonus on your first deposit. It's a great way to support the channel, play along, winning. There's a variety of ways to play. But yeah, I can't call it. I'm expecting a tough one. I don't think we're going to pull this one out tonight. I think what it'll take is hot 3-point shooting, because you got to keep them out of transition, but they protect the rim as well as anybody. That's going to be tough. And so I'm curious to see the blitzing scheme and how they do it, and if they're a little more dynamic in it. But look for Mobley catching the ball in the middle of the floor and causing trouble. So I think it's going to take, it's going to take a good 3-point night. I'm not sure if Draymond is available. Speaking of DeAnthony Melton, I'm not sure if he is. But hey, they've won enough now where even if we drop this to Cleveland and OKC at the end of this trip, we're all good. We're all good. You know what I'm saying? So strength in defense. That's how I'm feeling right now. Let me know how y'all feel in the comments about possibly swinging for the star. You want to just roll with this depth and see what we do. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.